We did just finish the 84th special session, the 84th session down in Austin, and I just wanted to go through some kind of our highlights. I want to be able to have some time, of course, for Q&A as we go through. A little bit about myself and the committees I serve on. I'm a member of the House Appropriations Committee. That's the budget writing group, and this is my first session on the budget. I'm also a member of one of the subcommittees. What happens is the Appropriations Committee gets set up, and then it breaks down to different articles in the budget. The articles that I'm a member of the subcommittee on really focused on kind of the regulatory agencies. So we're talking about TxDOT, DMV, Railroad Commission, TCEQ, and about 30 some odd other agencies whose budgets, at least on the House side, go through that subcommittee. I'm also on the Investments and Financial Services Committee. That committee, what it deals with is mostly banking, securities, credit, those sort of things. And then at the beginning of session, I was appointed to be the chairman of the subcommittee on state and local bond indebtedness. And that's a permanent subcommittee, and so kind of what my task and the task of the committee members there is to start looking at state debt, local debt, city debt, school debt, and try and find ways to be able to limit that debt, to provide more transparency in that debt, to really come to grips into what really is, I would say, one of the main issues that we still have left to tackle here fiscally. So the budget, again, I'm just so thankful to be able to serve on the budget committee, and the budget, we're just getting an incredible amount of praise on how well I think it turned out. That's the one bill, no matter how many bills get filed and no matter how many die, that's the one bill that we have to do constitutionally. And obviously it's the most important. It's where we decide which agencies get funded, how much they get funded. There's a lot of mechanics to it, but just on a simple say that we add federal money, we add local sales tax that's generated, and so on. And so the total that over the biennium is about $210 billion. That's kind of in the pot. And what we did in this session is, I think we're very conservative in our approach in how we spent the dollars that you all pay in taxes. So there's 4 different limits in terms of how much we can spend and the way that we can spend it. And in this particular session, we spent significantly less than what our constitutional spending limit is. To give you an example, the federal government obviously spends significantly more than they're projected to have come in. So we were well below that, and we were also below a conservative metric called population plus inflation growth. If there's one thing we did spend a lot of time on and a lot of focus, it was transportation. If you came here down 1709 or 114 or 35 or any of those things, there's quite a few bottlenecks here in the state. And that has partly to do with the fact that so many people are moving in here. Obviously, our infrastructure has to grow to be able to do that. And over the past, what we've been doing is we've been funding a lot of that through debt. We've been funding some of that through tolls. And what we did in this session is we dedicated more of our dollars, dedicated them from general revenues, that's sales taxes. So you're going to see as a percentage, the total amount of transportation dollars coming from debt go down, the total amount of transportation dollars from tolls, it will be a less of a percentage, but you're also going to see the total amount of transportation dollars increase. And also there's this concept of diversion where you intend the money to go one place and it ends up going somewhere else. So we took a big step in ending some of the major diversions in transportation. There's no comparison between the state's government and their revenues versus the federal. I think we do a significantly better job. Of course, we get a lot of accolades on the state budget for what we were able to do. Border security, I'll say, we obviously look at polls, we hear from constituents. This is the #1 issue by far, more than any other that we hear about before session, during session, and probably after session. And a lot of this started way back. I mean, obviously this has been going on for a long time, the issues in the border, but the biggest increase happened in last summer. And last summer we had a significant amount of individuals crossing the border. The criminal element, of course, that's focused on trafficking, counterfeit dollars, drug running and that kind of stuff. But then we also had unaccompanied alien children and families just using this as an opportunity to come here into the state. We began a border surge last summer, and we started to fund that by hiring DPS agents, by putting more people down there on the border, by increasing our technology, and we started to see a significant decrease in the total amount of individuals coming over and being detained. So what we did this session is we funded over $800 million. That's quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, I'll put it. I mean, that's significant. I think that's twice as much almost as what we spent in the last session. And I want to tell you where that money's going, so you know where it is. First is kind of on the short-term solution, and what we're doing is we're increasing the number of hours for DPS agents that are currently working, and the effect of that will be about an increase of 200 or so additional DPS agents, already working. Then the second part of that, which was actually, since I served on the budget committee, we had DPS come, and we said, okay, whatever, we want a lot more people down at the border, and then they kind of discussed with us what are the practical limitations of doing that. And one of those is that they just can't necessarily find enough people. They have to get vetted, they have to be trained. We've got money headed also for technology. Those are cameras that we're going to be putting on there, so that with our State Guard and others will be able to quickly identify individuals coming across the border. We also did a lot of stuff in this bill, which is HB 11, mostly related to creating kind of these centers so that our local police officers and our state police officers and our federal would be able to communicate a lot better, a lot quicker, and a lot easier to be able to do a lot of this tracking. Set up obviously some analysis of how we could better work. So, okay, then the second thing is we did a gross margins tax cut, and that's an across the board 25% cut in the business margins tax. And so if you're a businessman and you have a company that's over $1 million, or you're a business, you're an employer of a business, you're going to see those benefits as that happens. I think it's going to be great for spurring additional business to come here to the state of Texas. It was an incredible honor for me to be at the signing of these bills when Governor Abbott was signing these at AMD in Austin. HB 43, that's my gold bill. So, I'll go, not every, there's like 1 million articles, I've read all of them, not all of them are exactly right. So I'll go through and talk about it. This is another bill that I filed last session. Couldn't get it out of committee at all. Also very painful. Changed it a little bit, filed it this session. It passed like 140 to 1 or something out of the House and then in the Senate. And I think it was, the governor asked me to go at the ceremonial signing for this bill. So it was like the 10th one that he had done. So super excited to do that. In short, what this bill does is it creates a depository, a vault, if you will, here in the state of Texas, run effectively by the state of Texas. We're going to go out to private contractors in order to have them manage it because that's their skill set. And it will be a state of Texas depository. And so you as private individuals, as corporations, as entities, whoever, anywhere in the whole entire world will be able to go and store their precious metals like gold and silver, palladium, titanium, all of that kind of stuff inside of this depository. And by doing that, of course, there'll be fees generated. People generally pay somewhere between 0.1 to 1% to be able to store their physical gold assets. And there's been a lot talked about the fact that Texas does, through UTINCO, have about $650 to $1 million to $1 billion worth of gold somewhere else. So I would like to see the gold come back here to Texas so we don't have to pay those fees. But the other 99% of the bill also talks about something else. And what the goal there is to create an access to depository agents. So whether it's banks, institutions, corporations, can basically attach to this depository and effectively create a bank. And through this bank, you'll be able to make transactions, electronic, digital, physical, straight through this bank. And basically circumventing the Federal Reserve System and the monetary system. So when I had the math on it, because in the beginning it was like, okay, we're going to get gold, and then they had all these pictures of graphics if you go online of the Alamo stuff with gold bars and all this other kind of stuff and other stuff. But anyway, but then, people who kind of understood it, they're like, I guess when you're a friend, right, who completely understood it, he's like, all right, this is a really big deal, right? I mean, you basically, And what we're doing is we're using Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution, which specifically says that states cannot come up with their own currency, so this is not fair, but they can, however, use gold and silver as legal tender. And so what we're doing is something specifically allowed in the U.S. Constitution to be able to go and have a form of payments outside of the Federal Reserve System. So I was talking to this one newspaper, and they were like, okay, you know the Feds aren't going to like this. You know, what are you going to do when you come by and try to take all this stuff back? And I said, listen, you know, it's the same thing that's on that flag, on the cannon, that's in every single state legislator's office in the House, and that's come and take it. You know, they try and come and take it, but this is I think right now the comptroller is trying to figure out exactly what it is. We're going to try to work with them, but I expect that this will be a huge economic development tool for the state. We'll be able to create exchanges along with our other commodities like oil and gas. So imagine if you had $11 billion. What would you do with $11 billion? And I hope your answer is what the state was doing, which was basically putting it all in a checking account, effectively, earning about 0.3%, 0.4%. And so what I did is I worked with the comptroller's office and others and filed a bill to take about $4 billion of that $11 billion and put it in fixed income securities. And that's going to generate about $120 million of interest income for the state. That's money that's going to go straight into our emergency reserve fund. And so then I was like, oh, why stop now? So I looked at the TWIA fund. That's the one related to hurricanes and windstorm insurance. And there's about $500 million in that. And so we're going to try and put a bunch of that into higher fixed income securities as well. And for my next session, we're going to be working on the intro. It turns out we have a lot of money we're not doing anything with. And to me, that's a lost opportunity to be able to invest in still very safe, secure items. We're talking, fixed income 1.5%. But by not putting the money in there, we're effectively losing it through inflation, right? And so that's the goal, right? We're just trying to keep what we have. And that's kind of the main stuff. It was a really busy session, right? We had tons and tons of questions. We were there for 140 days from the very beginning. When I got put on the appropriations committee, it was like being sucked out to Siberia, right? I got there, it starts us there like tomorrow, 7:30 in the morning, and we go and we went through effectively, at least in our part of the subcommittee, line by line of our agency's budgets. We had public testimony, we had formal testimony, formal hearings. We went through all of that, and then of course on local consent, that's where the majority of the bills go, a bunch of various things. So I'm really, really glad to be home. It's difficult, but I am back. All of this, by the way, is thanks primarily to our staff. Okay, so Amanda Capriglione, who's our chief of staff, who's there, even though she should call her key. Stephen Keller, Kate Aldridge, she's our capital director. She's in Austin right now. Courtney Roberts, also from Keller, is so if you see our newsletters and all that kind of stuff, she helps out incredibly with that. And Sarah Trott, who's our intern from Keller as well. She's awesome. That's it. All right. Okay. I am ready for real. Yeah, I know some people make a big deal about it and that kind of stuff, but there's so much stuff that we were able to accomplish in this section, really fiscally conservative items. I mean, you go through this list of items that we were able to accomplish. They're everything from the budget, of course, which is the #1 item, all the way to Second Amendment, to privacy issues, down the line completely. I'm just proud of the work we did. I got more involvement in it this time, and I'm proud as a Texan, because what we did not only has gotten a lot of it's been proven, right? You continue to see businesses come here. Grapevine, the Blue Tractor Factory is coming here, right? That's a huge win for our area. And the city of Grapevine for all their work on it. That is 400 jobs, averaging about $90,000 a year coming into. I know Facebook is thinking about putting a data center coming into our area. So what we see is just an incredible amount of economic development and business opportunities coming to the state. So people vote with their feet, and they're coming here to Texas.